Come on, Caitlin. Let's do this. So, Caitlin is Iona's big sister. And not only have we had the joy of getting to know Iona over these past few months, but also Caitlin. I mean, we'd have been happy with one, but two is like a dream. They are just amazing, lovely, lovely people. We just love them so much. So, Caitlin, we are looking forward to hearing from you.
Hi guys, I'm also very nervous about this, so I had to write it like word by word, so I'm sorry if it gets a bit monotonous or anything, but please bear with. So it's quite a similar story to Iona. Obviously we grew up in the same family, and I was fairly involved with church. I went to Soul Survivor during the summer, and I don't remember a massive amount, but I do remember it was the start of a personal relationship with Jesus, and that I genuinely encountered him there. However, after returning home from these summer events, my life never really showed the fruit of that relationship because I didn't prioritise him at all. And then it kind of led to a massive sense of spiritual apathy in my life. I just didn't really care for Jesus. I didn't think about him that much. It wasn't that important. When I was around 14 or 15, I started partying and dating guys that were a bit older. And then the years that followed were comprised of sleeping around, broken up by a series of toxic relationships. In addition, I was going out several times a week, and more often than not, I was blacking out and waking up with no recollection of how I made it home. I smoked a lot of weed as well, and took other stuff as well. And I thought at the time that was giving me life. Like I found people that were doing the same sort of thing. Like it gave me so much life, but in fact, like the come downs just made me really empty inside. Not knowing who I was waking up to made me feel really empty inside. And despite this, it would come the evening and then I'd forget about how empty I felt and I'd do it again. So I was in a kind of cycle for a couple of years. But thankfully in the penultimate year of my degree, I met a really great guy who I dated for about a year and a half, and that kind of caused me to kind of calm down a bit. I stopped going out as much, I stopped partying as much. And it was the first good relationship I'd really had, because before that it's been a bit of a mess. And around this time, Iona went to uni to go to Aberdeen, and she, like myself, as she said, she went off a bit off the rails. So it was quite interesting to hear her stories of like her adventures and stuff up there. But there was about a week where I didn't hear anything from her, and that was quite weird because usually we'd speak like every day. And then in the middle of the night, one night, I got a message from her saying that Jesus had saved her life and that she was a Christian now. And I was just so confused because that was just like not what I was expecting. So yeah, over the next couple of months we like chatted about faith and stuff. Obviously I was familiar with these things because I'd grown up in church, so it wasn't like completely new to me. But the thing that struck me was like her personality completely changed, and her new zeal for Jesus literally just inspired me so much, and I just wanted that. Like I saw the change that he'd made in her life, and it was so amazing and powerful. So I didn't have a Bible at the time, or I did, but I couldn't find it. So I just bought a new Bible and I started reading, and I was praying as well and speaking out to God. And I started to learn more about God. And eventually I did tell my friends and my boyfriend at the time that I was now living for Jesus and that I love Jesus. But that was kind of always met with like, good for you, because I didn't really have a circle of friends that knew Jesus, so it was kind of hard to like relate. And yeah, the more like I just read and learned about God, I kind of, like Jonathan, started feeling really convicted about things. And the most significant was that obviously like I was in a relationship with someone who wasn't a Christian. So I told him, I was like, I don't want to have sex anymore. And he was like, okay, it's not going to work. And now I'm like, that makes sense. He didn't know Jesus. That's completely fair. But that was kind of like quite a big turning point, giving up that life and that relationship, which I felt so much comfort in. But yeah, it all happened really quickly, and it was just a question of being obedient to Jesus. If I wanted to follow him, I had to just stop. But yeah, and then after that situation, I kind of needed a bit of support. I started seeing a Christian counsellor, and I felt quite guilty about some of the things in my past. We're almost done, sorry. and I felt really guilty about some stuff I'd done in my past before, and I was silly. It was so silly. I was asking her what I needed to do to right the wrong. And I was genuinely, for this brief period, and I don't know what it was, but I genuinely was worried that my salvation depended on me fixing this stuff, and it's so silly. But I think at some point during my incredibly lukewarm period, I'd like lost sight of the gospel, and I'd maybe dislodged the message from me. And maybe it was the enemy lying to me, telling me these things in the hopes to condemn me and pull me away from God. But anyway, my counsellor reminded me of the gospel, that we are saved through faith, by grace, not by our own works. And the weight of this truth sank into my spirit for the first time in such a long time. I realised that there's nothing I can do to make God love me more any less than he already does. And that Jesus died for me even when I didn't even care about him. Yep. And this reckless, incomprehensible and supernatural love of God just completely blew my mind, that he wanted to be so near me, and I could never pay my way into heaven. I could never right the wrongs. I would never be able to do that. And that's just the same for every single person, that regardless of the thing that you feel most guilty about, he paid the price, so you do not need to feel guilty about that anymore. No sin is too bad for him to forgive. So yeah, that we're never too far away from God, and he's constantly chasing us down. So it's through trusting in the death and resurrection of Jesus for my salvation that I'm a daughter of God, and I want to be baptized today as a public declaration. I believe this, and I give my whole entire life to God, and I want to make his name great and glorify him in everything I do. And the fact that I have my future secured in heaven with him is just the most amazing thing. And my prayer is that there's hardened hearts all around the world, but I just pray that they are melted by his reckless love, and this same transformation can happen in other people's lives as well. So, yeah.